Okay. Okay.
All right. Well, welcome to the Digital Remodeler Podcast. So glad to have you today. And joining me is Russ Glickman. He's got his remodeling company is based in the Washington, D.C. area. It's got over 40 years experience. And just going to read you a few of his credentials. So as you're listening today, this is one you really want to take some notes on because I'm sure we're going to get some nuggets out of this. So Russ is a certified aging in place specialist, master certified remodeler, certified green professional, universal design certified professional, green advantage certified professional, certified lead safety, and certified environmental access consultant, ADA specialist. He gets called into court sometimes as an expert witness in personal injury cases to discuss the needs that an individual is going to have. And if that wasn't enough, let me read you a few more accolades. Russ has been endorsed and featured in over 80 national and local publications for creative solutions. This includes Better Homes and Gardens, the Washington Post, the Washingtonian Magazine. He was named Wizard of Inner Space by Luxury Homes Magazine and National Remodel of the Year by National Association of the Remodeling Industry. And then Washingtonian Magazine named him a top remodeler. He's also received the Best of House Award for remodeling and home design and the Chrysalis National Award for residential universal design. So he brings a lot to the table. You're going to want to take some notes. And Russ, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Carl.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about, you sent me some notes on how you got started, and I thought it was a great story. So if you talk us through, how did you get started?
Well, I guess I was always somewhat mechanically inclined as a kid, always interested in how things were put together and taken apart. And I was entrepreneurial as well. My grandfathers on both sides were somewhat builders. They did woodworking. And on my mom's side, my grandfather just during the Cold War moved to Kentucky, Cave City, Kentucky, and he built a house from the ground up with his own hands by himself, everything except he had help pouring the foundation. We used to go stay there during summers, and so I was. They had an unfinished attic that the kids got to sleep in, and I was looking up at the framing, trying to figure out how all this stuff went together. So I got started with them. Then in high school and going into college, I worked summers in construction with my girlfriend's brother, and we built additions from the ground up. And then I went to University of Maryland and was majoring in 3 different things: pre-med, pre-dent, and engineering. And I really should have been in business the whole time. But I got to the split, which was about 80 credits, and had to make a choice. And so it was like, physics 203 was okay for one major, and the other major it was physics 204. And it was just too much to do that, since I was more of an entrepreneur and a business guy. So I didn't want to be sitting in classrooms learning the wrong stuff. So I dropped out, and I actually hired some guys from my dorm, and we're doing painting and landscaping business. And then as time went on, decks became a really big business, and I ended up with over time having 35 employees, had salespeople, had carpenter crews. We were building lots of decks, and then realized, hey, I got this overhead set for a seasonal business, and then we needed to do sort of a transition to full line remodeling. And so we did that. I hired guys who knew more than I did about pretty much every aspect of the business. And then eventually it gnawed at me that I had started something and I didn't finish it. So I went back to college at night, University of Maryland, University College. And actually I got like 33 credits for basically showing what I had learned in my own business over the years. And then took some more of the courses, and graduated in business management studies from the University of Maryland.
Fantastic. Now, one of the things that we see in your path is you've really specialized in accessible living spaces, and I know some of that came out of your own family story. And so, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us as well.
Sure. I had been doing general remodeling, and I had two children, and you would call them neurotypical, where they did not have cerebral palsy. And my third child was born prematurely, to our surprise, and he was 2 pounds 14 ounces, and they did not expect him to survive. But he decided he wanted to live. On day 3, they gathered us around to say goodbye, and his mom, he was like, "You've been poked and prodded and through so much, and you can just like close your eyes, go to sleep, and we'll see you on the other side," basically. And he opened his eyes up for the first time. And he looked at his mom, and the nurse who'd been around there for a long time said, "This kid's gonna live. He wants to live." And that's exactly what happened. He was in the NICU for 6 months, and then brought home on like 16 meds, oxygen, 24-hour nursing, and that he wanted to survive, and we did the best we could to help him have a good life. And he lived at home until about 10 years ago. He's in a group home now. But during that time, as he got older, we needed to do modifications to the house to work for him and to work for us. When they're smaller, you can kind of carry them around. You can use a stroller, a fold-up stroller, and put them in and out of the car. And then as they get bigger and their equipment gets heavier, then it gets trickier. Then you need wheelchair ramps, and you need lifts, and you need patient lifts, because people. So I learned how to do all that out of necessity. And so over the years, when I did things at my own house, it was sort of a trial and error sort of thing. And it's like, when you do something for the first time, you build a ramp on the side of your house around, or you do a lift or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, next time I do it, I'll remember to do something a little bit different. So I had the benefit of when people called upon me, because they knew that I had a child with special needs. And even their physical therapists, his doctors, his friends, parents would. So would get called on that, and it was not something I really had planned on ever being an expert in or wanting to do, but it's something that I had learned to do, and I could end up helping people with that. And fast forward 25 years later, Mikey's doctor, physiatrist, which is basically an orthopedic doctor who doesn't do surgery. And she specialized in helping kids with special needs. And so, but she had a special need herself after 25 years, and she called upon me to help them. And then I helped her think through how to have a really nice house that does not look wheelchair accessible, but actually is wheelchair accessible. And so we remodeled her home and made that work for them in a beautiful way. And the Washington Post actually picked up an article about that modification. That house won a national award for universal design, and was featured in the Washington Post. And that actually went international. It was picked up in various countries. In Europe, Guam, Canada, some other places.
Excellent. Well, and that brings us into this next topic. You've had your brand now. You've been developing that for 40 years, and obviously with some of the awards and in your response back to me, you gave me some real interesting insight into some of how you've developed your brand. So if you would, talk a little bit about that. How has your brand evolved? And then, what are some of the things you've done to continue to further the brand over the years?
Okay, so it was getting education and certifications through some organizations, National Association of the Remodeling Industry, a National Association of Home Builders, and some other ones. So it's personal training in that. and it also applying for awards. You have to win awards. You basically apply for them in competition. So it does take some work to find the right projects, put them together in a manner, photograph them professionally, stage them, and then tell the story of the project and submit those, and then you can win awards. If you win awards, then you can try to get those publicized. You can contact different and years ago when we went through the first recession, 1990. Just leading up to that, I had actually had a PR person on staff full time, and I learned how she worked. And then as the recession hit, I had to let her go. And so, but I needed to continue. I needed to do more marketing, not less. So I took over some of what she did. And one of the things she did was she would get the editorial calendars of all the local newspapers and magazines and see what they're going to be writing about in the future. And then it would be basically, you do the writer's work for them. If they're going to do something on a kitchen addition, then you look at what you've done and you come up with a story that you basically wrote the stories, took pictures and presented it to them, and they go, wow, okay, I'll just kind of tweak this and put my name on it, and then that's the story. So we got a lot of press coverage over the years doing that. So trying to get out there. You can do seminars, you can attend events, things like that. So, and then to be, I guess, we were able to, with our niche, be a little bit special. Channel 9, USA 9, and some others sort of picked up on that. And then keeping up with a website is a big thing. We've redone our website probably 10 times in the last, 15 years. And it's an ongoing kind of thing. So you want to be, if you can have a niche, and if you can be findable, okay, that's really key.
Excellent. Yeah, I was going to ask if your specialization has opened some of those doors for you, because you have the expertise, it's unique. If that's been something you've been able to leverage, for some of that brand exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in a way we were concerned it would pigeonhole us, because about half of our work has something to do with either accessibility or universal design or aging in place. But the other half is like people who apparently are not aging at all and never plan to age. So they don't want to consider anything having to do with like universal design or, so we'll sneak some things into their projects that later on, they're really happy they made the hallway a little bit wider, or they had, wider doorways, and maybe something that doesn't look like a wheelchair ramp as an entry, but actually, hey, that is. They never use his wheelchair. We use it for bicycles and strollers and kids, playing and wagons and wheelbarrows and like at my own house. But so some of these features are handy for everyday living. And if you can kind of sneak them in without people feeling like, oh, my house looks like, it's institutional and it looks like somebody with a wheelchair lives here. You don't want that.
Exactly. Well, good. And you alluded to, a previous downturn and how you use some of the skills you'd learned from your PR person. And so that brings up a good discussion for us right now. We were talking even before we started the recording. Money is not cheap right now. And so, a lot of remodelers are feeling that. What are some of the adjustments you feel like a remodeling company has to make when times are a little more challenging to really stay in business and continue to move forward?
Well, if you can find a niche where it's something where certain people need what you can provide, and you can demonstrate that you can provide that better than other people, then that sort of narrows it down. So finding a niche is important. And it could be, it doesn't have to be accessible remodeling or aging in place. It could be a certain type of addition that you can pop on a house very efficiently. It could be, if it's, building out over a garage, a bedroom over a garage, and you can show that you can do that efficiently, and you've done a lot of projects like that. So finding a niche, I think it is really helpful times like that. I think you got to keep up on marketing, but you also have to cut back in costs. You have to keep overhead low. And if you have a niche, you got to be findable.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's good stuff. And let me ask you. I'm going to back up to the one thing you said there.
Yeah.
You've got to keep marketing, but you've got to control costs.
Yes.
So how do you determine what's critical in your marketing, and what are the things that maybe you can let slide a little bit?
Yeah, the tracking the marketing is important. So when you get calls or you get emails or inquiries, so it's really important to keep up with where are they coming from. And so you want to put your money into the areas that are you're finding success. And so for us, unfortunately, print media back in the 80s, we get a lot of leads. It was amazing how much business we got out of print media, but that doesn't happen now. So we've had to cut back in some of the flashy, high-end, kind of things that are for, branding. They say, oh, don't worry about the direct leads you're going to get. You pay money, you're going to have, it's for brand improvement. Well, it's like, look, I can't afford to have brand improvement. When I spend money, I need to see my return on investment, ROI. So track your ROI, and that's really key.
Fantastic. And then, talking about some of those shifts, print media was important for you in years past. What are some of the current shifts you're seeing, in technology that you feel like are really affecting the industry as a whole?
Well, one of the things that we found with COVID was doing remote meetings like we're doing right now. And so I could spread myself all over the metro area, and one day I can be at 5 different places, as opposed to, and still be, going to the gym or riding my bike and, whatever. So that's been, and we have remote design sessions. And so we will design real time somebody's house while the customer, so we will sign a design agreement, and then draw up the existing, measure their house and at a site visit to their house, draw up the existing conditions, have them into chief architect program, and then invite the client to have a design meeting with them. And then they will see the project come to life in design real time in an hour and a half session online. And so that did not happen. And the Zoom calls, that didn't happen for us. We had started just before COVID hit. We were starting to do some of that because some of the design help we had was remote. And so in order to have those people working for us, they couldn't be in person. And so we were doing that, but it didn't really catch on until COVID happened. And then people realized, hey, they could be at home working and get as much done or more than if they were, driving to work and meeting, in person.
Excellent. Have you seen any impact from, as artificial intelligence has rolled out this year in a heavy way? Have you seen any effects there industry wide?
Some design, we're just, we're working with it to some degree. I've actually not in a big way, but as far as design ideas go, and artsy kind of design, I've worked a little bit with these programs, Chat GPT, and you can actually talk to the computer, type in your vision of something, and it actually creates it for you. And then you can type in more parameters and it adjusts it. And so I'll look through, online and see a lot of stuff, and I go, that is definitely an AI drawing, or it's not a photo. It looks like a photo, but it's not. And so you can use that, and clients could use that too to create their own little dream project, and hand it to the remodeler and go, hey, can you build this?
Exactly. Good. So it's kind of our final question here. So, looking at 40 plus years in the industry, if you were to sit across the table from somebody starting out today, or they're in their first 5, maybe 10 years, what are some of the secrets of success that you would pass on to them?
I would say, so in general, a remodeling business is, in a way, it's like you have like 8 plates spinning. Okay, you imagine that you're like you're a magician, you're spinning these plates here, and all those 8 plates have to keep spinning. Okay, it's not a problem if one of the plates gets a little bit wobbly once in a while. You just got to catch it before it falls, and then that could be in an area where, like, it could be with the legal part of your business, like keeping your licenses, everything up to date, and your contracts, make sure they protect you. It could be with marketing. It could be with HR. It could be, in the construction field, making sure you're building the project properly, with customer relations, keeping in touch with the customer so that they don't hit the wall at the wrong time. So you got to make sure to keep all the plates spinning, number one. Number two, when it's a small business, you have to be the one keeping all the plates spinning. And then at some point, you got to realize, okay, what is your best strength? What can you unload off of your plate, okay, in order to save yourself time, where you could pay someone to do what you're doing, and your time, for example, doing paperwork, you might be able to pay someone $20 an hour to enter, data. And you could take, instead of you doing that, you can use your own time for its highest and best use. So figure out what your highest and best use of you, and then if you have other people working with you, what theirs is, and then try to delegate other items, and try to get good people to be able to do what needs to be done. Unfortunately, it gets, when you have a small business, and you can't afford to have many people working, then you can't be that specialized. So some people who are generalists, they might be able to do design and estimating and project management, but as the business grows, you need a really good designer, and then a really good estimator, and then a really good project manager. And then that person that you hire to do all of those, they're not really the best at any of those. And so that gets to be a little bit tough during a growth phase, because you might have to, you specialize with people more in different positions.
Excellent. And then any other just final thoughts that you have for the audience, things that you think might be helpful?
Well, social media is a big thing. Keeping your website up, figuring out how to be findable for what you do. If you have award-winning projects, take the time to photograph them, stage them, and go through the efforts to apply for awards, and hopefully win awards. And you win the awards, and try to market those.
Excellent. Well, Russ, it's been a privilege visiting with you again today, and thank you so much for your insight and just your expertise, and it's been good having you. If you want to learn more about Russ and his work, you can visit GlickmanDesignBuild.com and learn more about them. They're on social media, so be sure to visit their properties as well.
Okay, there's also from the other aspect, it's not tweaked as much, RussGlickman.com.
All right.
it's a little more of these legal special needs and that type of thing. But it's an interesting. It kind of shows from that perspective also. Thank you very much, Carl. Really
Oh,
appreciate it.
absolutely. Perfect.
All right.